Yo, what's up, YouTube? I wanted to make a little update on my little experiment, right, regarding the notes taking. So I probably wasn't the clearest. The last video I was kind of yapping a lot. It was like 20 minutes long. So today I wanted to kind of showcase what I meant by doing that, and kind of progress that's been happening, if any at all. I mean, I'll kind of describe it, right? So, by the notes, hopefully you can see them on screen, yeah? I meant stuff like this. So, day one, I just kind of played my set, and then I would, look at the replay and kind of write down my mistakes, right? Just the mistakes, nothing else. And by mistakes, I mean both generally unforced mistakes and forced mistakes that were like arguably avoidable though by like better play, right? Not guesses. Guesses were not the case for the most part, right? Obviously, if I made like observations like this guy DP'd every time for like 15 knockdowns in that same situation and you still didn't bait it, like you should have noticed, right? I wrote that down. But generally, for example here, right? So we have check drivers really late. That's one of those things that I do, is that I don't have this kind of awareness of like, I mean, you kind of need to let go of certain opportunities. And yeah, because like if you're not ready to check the drivers, it's better to just take the plus frames and take the throw than, get drivers plus counter hit with the normal. And if it's really late, chances are that they were pressing like a stronger, like a bigger button, so you probably get fucked really hard with damage. So that's just one layer, kind of awareness that you just gotta be like more selective, right? So that's, for example, one. Got anti-aired on the Seismo super jump cancel. So that's the kind of thing where like it's not good to autopilot this, especially if the opponent shows that they kind of know the matchup, right? So hesitate on crouching heavy punch feint. So that's one of those things that I was kind of doing. And the thing is with my gameplay is that oftentimes it varies day to day. I mean, it always varies day to day. So what I did in that situation, I kind of remember, is I just did this, and then I kind of like, I didn't immediately commit, and I just kind of pressed, like, I just walked and pressed a little bit later, and they just pressed the big button and counter hit me. And by what I mean by hesitating is that, either people press immediately, right, and that's kind of where you try to spacing trap them, or like maybe interrupt them with this, or they also hesitate, in which case, you kind of gotta guess. It's like a guessing game as well, but you may as well just make them block another one of these, right? That's half a bar of drive that you take. That's good damage. And if, you guess that they're gonna press immediately outside of just doing this, which sometimes doesn't work, depends on the character, right? And what buttons they have. You can also frame trap with Seismo, obviously, and then you get a pretty decent combo. That's pretty good damage. Probably, if you're ready for it, I guess you can do this as well. So that's 25%, pretty much for free. Like, it takes 2 bars, I guess, but like you can obviously do this, like shit like this. I mean, it's just, and you gotta factor in the counter hit. So regardless, that was just an example. And etc, etc. I did stuff like that. So I kind of did this for like 3 days. The one thing is that I only did it for 3 days. This was 2 days ago, right? Yesterday I actually played with Khan, right? Really good Luke player, the best Luke at EU. He was playing on Akuma. I don't know if he's switching, but he's a friend. We just played the first 10, and then I was kind of like, I mean, I can probably analyze that, and it counts as more games than whatever I was doing these previous days. And today I just played against Yimbo a bit. I mean, by a bit, I mean like a lot. But regardless, point was, I was kind of playing, but like I was playing very little, right? But I was like accepting. I was like, okay, the approach is here. I stick to this for a week, right? But by like day 3, right? That's kind of on day 2. I kind of shifted my approach to have like major mistakes with a plus, and my minor mistakes with a minus. So for example, bad counter hit, crushing light punch conversion. Probably I did, I don't know, like I frame trap and then I wasn't ready, and then I did another jab, or no wolf punish on the with TK, yes, tiger knee, right? Yes, I got. But like, you know, yeah, like major mistakes are mistakes that kind of cause the game to shift kind of momentum, right? Like I lose my advantage. For example, against this Sagat, he kept doing just normal dash up, and Sagat has like 23 frame dash, and I was just asleep at the wheel. To be fair, I was playing late. I'm playing really late these days, which I don't necessarily like. You know, so that was kind of the idea, and I did that the day afterwards as well. I didn't really play much 2 days ago. Here I played a little bit more. And the thing is, right, outside of just feeling like I couldn't really improve, and especially with, you know, like I would play maybe one of these characters, like, you know, I wouldn't get the chance to play that much, and a lot of the game at my level is just even remembering the matchups, and like, you know, just one first to two every now and again, like every other week, isn't enough to kind of have the matchup on lock, right? Like mechanically speaking. There's, for example, Kimberly, right? I played a Kimberly here. I let her get away, and they were pretty bad players. Like a lot of these players, like they're not good in a sense. It's just that, like I let her get away with standing medium kick and to run like 20 million times. Literally a free jab every single time. Like free diss every single time. Oops. 5k damage. Or, I mean, obviously that's exaggerating, but you know, like 3 meterless knockdown. If I want to spend meter, I can do this. 2k damage every time she did that. Obviously, she would have stopped, so I mean, presumably, you know. Point being, I did this for a couple days, and the thing I observed is that a lot of it, we're obviously repeating mistakes, right? And the idea was always kind of write these down and you feed them to an LLM, because I'm lazy. I can probably go over them, right? And that's, I mean, mentally, obviously, just kind of saying these things out loud, writing them down, you kind of already form an idea of what you need to improve upon. But I just kind of fed it to an LLM, and by LLM I mean Gemini, right? And so, you know, the things that showed up, and I want to show my thing, but I don't know if this shit kind of leaks my stuff, so I'll be careful here. So hold up. So I'll do this. Oops, what the fuck's going on? So I'll be very careful. I think this way it should be alright. Right. So I gave it the files, and then I'm FG coach, right? It uses the gem, it just kind of, it hallucinates stuff, don't get me wrong. But the idea was, right, I just told him, like, yo, tell me what is the most common mistake. That's kind of the idea, right? And the thing is, the conversion crisis. Hit confirms. Now I write crouching medium kick and confirm here. In context, it's as in, like, I just mean confirm, not hit confirm. By confirm, I mean just, like, for example, just doing seismo or just buffering. But, you know, like, it's for me to understand. Like, obviously, I get what it means, right? The thing is, with Viper, and, you know, then the autopilot drift, right? Lack of intent, that's obviously a classic. You know, you kind of lack intent. And then the technical drills, whatever. I mean, that's not really what I was looking for. But, yeah, okay. So the two biggest things, or three, I guess, hesitation, that was mostly, yeah, I mean, you know, the biggest things are these two, right? That I kind of learned about. I mean, in a sense, like, obviously I always knew them, but I never really realized. And the first is just not necessarily being ready, and that kind of ties into the autopilot thing. But oftentimes, during at least this small sample size of matches, right, what would happen is that I would get, for example, situations like this, and then I would walk back and whiff a button, right? So 2 mistakes I would do here. First of all, I wouldn't be ready for the confirm, right? I literally frame trap, so at least I should be, you know, ideally do this or whatever, you know, for meterless knockdown. So that's error number one. I would just kind of do this and not really commit to anything. And this in multiple different scenarios. For example, like they would do drive rush, I would check with this and I wouldn't like buffer into a special move. Like, hello? Like you're checking a drive rush. If it hits, right? And Yo Wanglo, thanks for Brian, bro. I'm just recoding the YouTube's videos. And then the second mistake would be just walking back into this. So this is one of those things that you kind of shift towards, at least I somewhat do, and it's one of those bad habits where you autopilot shimmy, and a lot of players do this. Usually I would say that it would be like kind of beyond me in a sense, because I would say generally I'm not, I reaction with punish to most things, but obviously sometimes you fall back on this. And the thing is, I walk back automatically a lot, even in defensive situations. Like, I finish a jab string, and then I just walk back and then just get clipped by a crouch and medium kick that obviously comes after, right? And it's just one of those autopilot-y things that you kind of don't think about. And that aren't that flashy in your mind, right? Like, the thing that's flashing in your mind is like, oh my god, fucking crouch and medium kick into driver is so dumb, yada yada yada, right? But the reason you got hit is because you autopilot. I mean, in my case, obviously, it's because you autopilot holding back, and I get that a lot. Like, even outside of this situation, this was obviously an example situation. You just kind of fuck up once, and then you just do this, and then you press. But even without the pressing, right, just holding back in this situation after double combo means that you will get clipped by the crouch and medium kicks that come out right after. So that's kind of the, one of the scenarios I dropped. Obviously, this kind of expands to multiple cases, but that's kind of the thing I noticed. And yeah, so what to do now, right? So the info gathering kind of helped, right? I found out some issues, obviously amongst others, that I need to work on. But as I was saying, initially the idea was to do this for like a week. But I did notice, as I've mentioned, maybe, that reviewing after every match is very time-consuming. It is a time-consuming endeavor, and it takes a lot of time, and you don't get to kind of practice the stuff you want to improve. So my trusty LLM also suggested, after I prompted it, obviously, I mean, I kind of included that in the original question, I plan an idea of being like 80-20, and like 20% you info gather, you're kind of like, okay, what should I work on, right? And 80% you kind of practice towards that. Now, obviously, practicing towards that isn't that easy, especially in ranked. I mean, you kind of have that whole ego thing going on, and that's really annoying. And sometimes, I mean, there's so much going on, and situations like these are such a minimal part of the game, right? It's not necessarily easy to kind of get in that mindset. And while these situations are actually like more pervasive than just like Oki, right? Like, by not hit confirming it in general, the thing I noticed is that like I wasn't ready to kind of deal with the situation for which I pressed the button for. Like, why did I press this button? Like, what did I expect to happen? For example, I would chase down an opponent and press this, and then I'd be like, oh wait, they got counter hit. Oh wait, they got hit. I could have been buffering into this entire time. I mean, I was full drive, for example, say that, and I just kind of didn't, right? Because I was kind of autopiloting the button. I wasn't really using it with any intention. I was like, I mean, I don't know, like, and that's kind of what this expands upon, right? And obviously in this case, the idea was I used the frame trap without really being conscious of it, so I missed the hit confirm for the frame trap. The idea here is that, oh, I tried to chase down an opponent using a low, and then I didn't really buffer it into anything that would lead to a knockdown, so it just kind of like, okay, yeah, I get 500 damage, whatever. Like, it doesn't really achieve much of anything, especially because people in this game are just fucking animals and they'll press on hit every single time. But you know, that's besides the point. So the idea is, right, you kind of want to be more purposeful, but there's only so many things that, I mean, there are so many things that fall into that category, and only so many things that kind of can focus on, that the rest of the gameplay kind of is more of a distraction. So that's kind of the issue, right? I find myself in, like, okay, I've done the info gathering, I know what I need to work on, but what I need to work on is just something so vague and so, like, obviously essential and fundamental. Is just like, oh yeah, you use your moves with purpose. Don't just do stuff for the sake of doing shit. You want your stuff to achieve something. And you know, it just kind of goes from very specific to like generalized, and I don't particularly know how to kind of find a middle ground to kind of work upon, especially because, you know, in the lab, like, sure, I can lab hit confirming. I mean, that's doable, right? Like, I mean, if I have him on do nothing, right? Like, I do this. I mean, that doesn't work. Yeah. Like, I do this, right? So the idea here is that if I see the counter hit on the crouch medium punch, I what the fuck, is he not doing anything, bro? Is he done? Okay. Right. Okay, so that's the idea, right? Like, I hit confirm, I do this, I do into a frame trap. If I don't do anything, I feint the size. Now, this has its own downsides. For example, doing that isn't actually DI safe, whereas doing it from this would be DI safe. This beats DI, this doesn't, by 1 frame. But you know, that's matchup specific tech, whatever. You know, but you can kind of lab those situations, but it's not like something that you always encounter. And that you can always kind of force. I mean, you can try to force it, but at a certain point, it kind of gives you those diminishing returns, because people, you know, if you do the same Oki like 15 times, right, people are gonna know, oh, that's what he's doing, like, I'm just gonna block or whatever. Because if you're hit confirming, practicing hit confirming, it kind of, you know, kind of becomes a useless endeavor not doing that. So you kind of need to practice multiple things, multiple options to kind of vary and try to apply them, but obviously then you kind of get overloaded in stuff you still need to implement. Like, you've labbed multiple things, but you still need to implement all of them in your game plan, and then it's just, you know, it's just kind of a mess. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. What I'm gonna do forward, going on, is not doing the whole replay review after every match anymore. So today and yesterday I was kind of playing just with my friends, so I was more, since they're better players than the people I generally play against in ranked, like their ultimate master and shit like that. I got to 2K Ma. You know, I need to focus a little bit more, I guess. But even then, I mean, against Zimbo, I would say I'm pretty comfortable most of the time. Depends on the character is on. Against Khan, less so. I mean, on Akuma, I mean, it depends how much he feels like baiting me on with the demon raids, which is fucking annoying, by the way. But the whole idea is generally just, yeah, I just kind of need to focus more on that, and also I can stop less. Like, you can't really think when you play like longer sets, or I mean, I guess you can adapt better, which is something I struggle with. So it's kind of an anti-purposeful, that's not a word, but you know, like, it kind of goes against the whole purpose of like this, to learn adaptation faster or whatnot. But at the same time, you know, you have like less time to stop and gather your thoughts, but you can just apply them. So I mean, it's just different, right? So going back to what I'm gonna do from now on, right, I'm probably just gonna try and play and try and focus on doing the things I want to focus on. So while I did say just now, that it's kind of a clusterfuck, too many kind of options, you kind of need to vary, I'm probably gonna just try and like pick a couple here and there, try to hit confirm that in matches, at least for now. And kind of maybe clean up my inputs as well. That's one thing I noticed. A lot of the mistakes I do are kind of Viper specific. I would say I would probably be struggling maybe less in a lot of those departments if I was playing a character that just did, button into drive rush the entire time. Which is kind of, I need to carry myself because that's the character I chose, and I am committing to the Viper for this season. That is something that I will stick with compared to the note taking for a week or whatnot. Yeah, so I'm gonna play ranked, try to implement the stuff. If I manage to catch myself slipping, I will replay review. Maybe I will, regardless, kind of replay review at the end of the day to kind of gauge my progress. That's kind of an idea that the LLM suggested. It was like, every day you can kind of maybe, it did say the 20-80 split, right? So 80% of the time you play the game, then 20% of the time you kind of replay review. Maybe at the end of the session, I can look at like some of the worst losses I did, or like like some of the losses against who I would, I guess, judge to be the worst opponents, and kind of judge those, right? Because in my mind, the consistency of beating worst opponents, it's kind of better than being able to achieve those like fucking reaching nirvana moments and beating really good players, right? It's more important to be consistent and to not lose to shitters than to be able to, sometimes just pop off and just beat some really good players, right? At least that's my philosophy in that sense. So I guess in some aspects, I would maybe kind of look at like 3-4 replays, see if I also improve upon the things I kind of am trying to work on, and yeah. So not just the frame traps and pressing the buttons with purpose, possibly also the autopilot. That is one thing I really need to focus on, is just not walking back. I can probably do that more with SimSim as well. That's another kind of thing, because with SimSim you can kind of just take your mind off of everything else. The only thing is that SimSim is too much of a shitter. So yeah, that's kind of the one conflicting aspect of it. But yeah, so this was my kind of little progress thing. It wasn't a weekend, but I did think that this was enough of like kind of a progress situation where I could reasonably talk about it. And I mean, I always yap a lot, so in that sense, maybe talk too much. It is 23 minutes that I'm recording, but if someone's interested, they can watch. Just kind of, hopefully my voice isn't too screechy or whatnot. So yeah, have a nice day.